Hi everybody and welcome back to Crafted by Corie. If you're new, I'm Corie. Excited that you are here for this compilation of all of the gift ideas that I did in 2020. So without further ado, let's get right into the projects. DIY number 1. So this is my inspiration picture, the red pre-lit LED ornament from Kirkland's, and this is what I'm going to be using. It's a terrarium from the Dollar Tree, as well as one of these napkin rings, also from the Dollar Tree. As you can see, it's a package of 6, but I'm just going to use one of them. And then I'm going to use one of these little key rings as well, plus my liquid hairspray. And then Arteza also sent me this pack of 54 different glitter bottles. They are awesome, and I wish I had shown you a little bit more about them, but I'm going to be using the holographic red, and there is the holographic red that I'm going to be using for this project. So I'm going to start out by taking that little knobby thing off the top of the terrarium. I actually did end up screwing it back in because I figured I've got a lot of holes in this thing, so trying to kind of swoosh the hairspray around there, I was trying not to make a mess. I wasn't entirely successful, but it occurred to me afterwards that I probably should have just taped up the holes, the little holes, and then I could have used the large hole to just spray the hairspray in, because I did end up getting a little bit too much of the hairspray in there, and then I didn't let it drain as much as I really should have. So anyway, once I had that situation rectified, I went ahead and added my glitter in, and I'm just moving it around so that it's covering the inside of the giant ornament, I'll call it, and then knocking out the rest of the glitter that I'll put away for a future project. Now I am taking one of the napkin rings as well as one of these little key rings, and I'm going to fashion a top. I'm using just a scrap piece of foam core here, and I'm going to trace out the shape that I need to kind of fill in the top of that napkin ring. And then I'm also going to cut a slit through the middle of that, as you can see, and going to position my little key ring in through there, and then I'm going to secure it with hot glue. I did take the little key ring out to secure it, and now I'm using my Arteza acrylic silver paint to paint the top of that so that it matches, and then I'm going to push my little key ring back in through to complete the little cap for my ornament. And then I went ahead and secured that with hot glue as well. More hot glue to now secure this to the ornament. I'm covering up that side hole so that that is camouflaged. And so there it is so far. I'm loving this. So I have some ribbon that I picked up from Costco. This is a newer ribbon that I just found the other day. I was really excited to see it. I just think it's really super pretty with this red and ivory and black buffalo check. And I'm going to create a hanger, if you will, with it, but I'm going to tie a bow in it and then lay it back over itself so it's kind of rests on top of that other hole to camouflage that other hole so that we don't have that just kind of hanging out there and showing. So I'm tying my bow to the size and shape that I wanted and just playing with it until I get it to the right size. And once I have that all set, I'm going to go ahead and dovetail my ends, maybe once I'm done playing with it. So I'm going to dovetail my ends, fold them in half and cut it at an angle. Do the same thing with the back side. I left that one a little bit longer to help camouflage the large hole that's at the back. Now using some hot glue just to secure that in place so that my hole is covered. And I apologize if you're hearing chewing noises. Sammy is here with me as usual, and he is chewing on a rawhide, so he's being a little noisy, so sorry about that. But I love this piece. So then I did take some Dollar Tree lights And I went ahead and added those in to light up our ornament. And here it is. So if you are new to my channel is Crafted by Corie, and my name is Corie, and I love to do all kinds of different DIYs and crafts, usually on a budget. I do a lot of Dollar Tree, I do some Trash to Treasure, and I am just so thrilled to have you here. So thank you for being here with me and for all of the support. If you haven't already subscribed, I hope you'll do so. DIY number 2. This is a piece of, it's made of wood, and here we've got our Waverly antique wax, and I'm using the wine calendar, and these you can still find, at least I'm still finding them, you guys. But this, I don't even know what you'd call it, tray? Well, yeah, I'm making a tray out of it, so I guess it's a tray. I had gotten it as a gift with a little food package last Christmas, so it was the container that the little food gift had come in. So I am just going over all of it with the wax. I did not bother with the inside bottom because I am going to be covering that up. So I just made sure that it was all good to the extent that it needed to be for the part that might possibly show around the edges. Hopefully that's making sense. So I trimmed this down and just got it so that it was going to be a good snug fit. Coming in again, shocker, more of the Mod Podge. So I am Mod Podging the bottom, setting in my image, and just making sure that it is all nice and secure. And here I am with my little squeegee again. I love this thing. So I had left it like that for a few days, and I was just thinking I wanted something else. So I did come back a couple of days later, and with my hot glue, I am applying this cord. I think it's like a cotton cord, and to be honest, I'm not sure where I got it from. I want to say I got it from Walmart. I am not certain. I've had it in my stash for a while, but it's like it's almost white. It's like a cream color, and I decided I was just going to put this around the edge. I always just like to have my edges nice and neat, so anytime I'm using these calendar pages, I just kind of like to cover up that edge for whatever reason. And so I started in the corner, and now I'm finishing in the corner, and I'm just going to make sure that that's nice and secure in there, nice and smooshed in. And this is just a cute little tray, right? I just thought this image was adorable. DIY number 3. So this is going to be a super fast and easy DIY. I've created these decals on my Silhouette Cameo, and I'm going to prepare my mugs that I got from the Dollar Tree, and then I'm just going to apply my decals onto each of the mugs. And I am going to make these available in my Etsy shop, so if you don't have a vinyl cutter and you have interest in purchasing one of these decals, I will make them available for purchase on Etsy. Now, I have to say that I am going to make a couple of them available in 2 versions. So the first version would be weeded, which is what I normally would do for you, is basically having it all ready to go just like you're seeing here. And the other is going to be unweeded, which means that you would be able to weed it yourself, because some of the detail on some of these is so intricate that it just takes a lot of time. So I'm going to be offering 2 price points on that. But look at this Farm Fresh Christmas tree one. I love that so much. And then the fourth one, have yourself a merry little Christmas. So I just thought it was nice, and this could be a really great gift to make for somebody, and it's inexpensive, but it's handmade, and I found that it's fine in the dishwasher. DIY number 4. For this project, I picked up these 3 little glass jars from Michael's. I think they were about $2 a piece, and they have these lids that seal themselves. And I've got this other little tray that I have from the Dollar Tree, giving it a good coat of the antique wax by Waverly. And once I have that all covered, I'm going to go ahead and set that down to dry while I take care of the other parts of this project. So I'm going to clean up my little glass jars, wash them, make sure that they are nice and dry. So now I have my food processor, and I've got a bunch of different herbs and my garlic and my dried onions and my sea salt. So I am using about a half a cup of sea salt. I think I actually probably used, actually that was a quarter cup. I used somewhere between a quarter and a half a cup of salt because I figured out what my little containers would hold. And I'm adding in various components to this. So I've got, and I'm trying to remember what I put in with the garlic. I just added garlic. I'll be able to tell you in just a minute because I can't remember what I did right off the top of my head now. But I threw it all into the blender and blended it up, and then I poured it into my little container. And this is an infused salt. Now you could use fresh herbs. I did originally intend to use fresh herbs and forgot to go to the grocery store, and then we had a snowstorm and I wasn't gonna go to the grocery store. So I worked with what I had, and actually they turned out really great. And so I did 3 different kinds, and you can see me just eyeballing this. Again, they have all kinds of recipes if you want to Google it. They've got all kinds of different recipes for seasoned salts. I just kind of winged it and did what I thought I wanted for the salts that I was putting together. These are black peppercorns, or to the wise, coffee grinder would be better if you want these to actually chop up. And this is some lemon. I actually did have a lemon, thanks to my daughter, in the fridge. So I zested the lemon and I baked that at 150 degrees for about 20 minutes just to dry it. And I added that into one of my salts. That one was a lemon pepper sage, I believe. I can't remember. We'll see in a minute. So I'm taking these little wooden labels that are obviously on clothespins, and I'm taking the clothespin off by heating it up with my glue gun. And I'm using my Arteza white paint marker with that pointy tip to write in the names of the salts. And so here you can see the first one was garlic rosemary. Now I remember. I'm applying that with hot glue to the top of my lid. I had been trying to decide whether I wanted these on the top or on the front, but I figured if they're sitting on the counter in this little container or case, you'll be able to see what they are, and easy peasy. DIY number 5. For this project, I'm using one of the Dollar Tree calendars. This is the wine calendar. If any of you are interested in this calendar, I do have a handful of them. So just send me an email and I will be happy to get one out to you if you're the first however many people. So I'm also using this sign from Dollar Tree. I'm going to use my spray adhesive on the back side of it. I'm gonna give it a real nice coat and apply my calendar image to that. Then I'm just gonna smooth it all out, get all of the air bubbles out, and now I'm gonna come in with paint sticks. These are the large paint sticks that come 3 to a pack at Home Depot or Lowe's for $1. And I'm using my handy dandy miter saw to cut these down. I am mitering the edges because I want it to be a really pretty finished looking frame. So now I'm coming in, this is just watered down Java chalk paint. I believe that's a Home Decor color, yes. And wiping that down just to use it as a stain for my wood. Then I'm going to put my frame together. This is the back side of it, and I'm using my staple gun again. And for this, the staple gun was fantastic. It was a little bit flimsy at the corners, but I knew I was going to be applying it directly to my image, and it was completely stable after that. So here I'm coming in with my wood glue. This is my Gorilla Wood glue. And I'm going to just run a bead right along the edge all the way around. Then I'm going to set my frame down, making sure that my image is centered. And then I flipped it over and I decided I was going to come in with a bead of glue along the entire edge of it, just for some additional support. I also then reinforced the corners so that they would just have a little bit more stability, just to be safe. I was feeling, overly, wanting to that. I can't even talk, you guys. I just wanted it nice and secure. So for the bag, I am going to come in with my craft paper, tracing out the approximate size of my project, and then I'm going to apply that with hot glue, again a bead all the way around the edge. And then I came in with my craft knife and just trimmed off any excess. Now make sure you use a really sharp craft knife. Mine wasn't super sharp when I first started doing this, so I had one edge that needed to get cleaned up, and here I am trying to clean it up, and I'm like, I need help here. So I went and grabbed my Arteza Architect's ruler, which I love. It's like a 3-sided ruler with amazing measurements, and that allowed me to just go ahead and make my straight edge along the paper to clean that up. So for this one, I am going to be using my jute cord, and I am securing it as I did before. I'm going to secure it once, fold it over itself, and secure it again. I just feel like that should help it to being able to pull out. So when it's hanging on the wall, the cord should not be able to pull out from being secured in this manner. So doing the same thing on the other side. I had stapled it once, folded over, stapled it again, and we are good to go on that front, making sure it's all in there nice and solid. And now you could leave it like this, but I decided I wanted to give it a little bit more depth, and so I'm coming in with my plaster, and you can tell I am putting so little on here, just dry brushing it and getting it a little bit at a time to where I want it. DIY number 6. So this is my inspiration. I'm actually going to dupe this. This is also from the Lakeside collection. I do have a free printable available to you in my Etsy shop, but I will tell you, you can get a set of 3 from Lakeside collection for just $7.99. So I have the link for that in my description box as well. But if you choose to make it, this is what I've been using. And so this is the printable that I created, and it's really identical almost to what was in the catalog. I had Staples print this and laminate it. My version is 11.5 inches wide. and I'm just having that cut out. Staples did charge $13.99 for me to have it printed and laminated, which is why I think it's fine if you want to just order these. I just loved it so much, especially given everything that we are going through right now. If we can't necessarily get together with our friends and family over the holidays, how nice would it be to get some of these plates from the Lakeside collection and fill them up with little goodies and drop them off to your friends? You know, what is it, ding dong dash, you know, leave them a little goodie on their doorstep and they'll read this message on the plate, which is essentially, this plate has no end to its journey. You know, you fill it up with goodies and you're supposed to share it with your family and friends and just pass it along. So I just loved the message. So I didn't really go into what I was using here, but this is the resin that I used a couple of weeks ago. And as I mentioned before, it has an A part and a B part. And I was always intimidated by resin, but this is so easy to use. You do want to make sure you wear gloves. Safety is important. This particular resin is food safe as long as you mix it properly. And it's 1-to-1 ratio. So however much of part A you use, you want to use the same amount of part B. So I am using my pizza pan from the Dollar Tree, and I am putting a little bit of the resin down first. This is what they recommend you do to help avoid air bubbles in your project, and it actually worked out really well for me. So, and this also serves as an adhesive, so this resin is going to stick to whatever you put it on. So I'm using my little popsicle stick that came with the resin kit, and I'm kind of smooshing it around and just making sure that I've got a relatively even layer of the resin on the bottom of my pan. And I used 3 little cupfuls, which I believe are about 1.5 ounces of each type. So I ended up with 6 little cupfuls, if that helps. And then I used about, I want to say, 1/3 of my mixture on the bottom, and now I'm putting the rest of it over the top. And they say that usually when you have trouble with resin, it's only because you didn't stir it enough. So with this, it's like you have to stir and stir and stir until it gets completely clear, and then you have to stir some more. I honestly think I stirred it for like 10 minutes total. So once it's all stirred, you can go ahead and start working with it. And I'm using my little popsicle stick again to just smooth out the resin and getting it all sealed along the edges with the resin that was underneath, because I want to make sure that my image was encapsulated in the resin. And the reason I had this laminated, I just wasn't sure how the image would respond to the resin if I didn't, and I figured better safe than sorry. So I just went ahead and had that laminated before I used it. And then you just let it cure for this particular one, 18 to 24 hours. And you spray it with a little bit of alcohol to clean up, and also that gets rid of the air bubbles after 10 minutes. I did spray it down with that. DIY number 7. So this is my inspiration photo. This came from the Lakeside Collection catalog. I'm going to be starting out with a bunch of paint sticks, some large popsicle sticks, or I call them tongue depressors. This is a basket from the Dollar Tree, and then I've got my little miter saw there. So I'm going to figure out about how long I want my paint sticks to be, and I'm really just going to end up cutting them off just above that handle or below that handle, however you want to look at it. So I'm going to cut off the area that has that little divot. So then I'm going to take my paint sticks once they are trimmed down, and I'm going to use the tongue depressors, or the giant popsicle sticks, to help me secure all of these together. And this is going to become our sign. using wood glue as well as some hot glue. So that wood glue gives it that long-term bond, and then the hot glue is just going to give it that instant hold so that we can keep working with our project. And I've just got my straight edge there to help me make sure that I keep it all lined up. And then I was just sanding off that edge that I had sawed. Coming in with my Rust-Oleum linen white chalk paint and going to give it a good coat of paint. I believe I only gave it just one coat for this project. And then once I had it all painted, I came in with my little pointy Dollar Tree tool, and I'm just trimming through, if you will, the paint. I'm just kind of scraping it through there where the little, I'm going to call them boards, they're my paint sticks, but where they come together, because I want that shiplap kind of look. And then, of course, you all know that I have to finish off my project, so I want to make sure that the back is painted as well. And then I set that aside to dry. I'm going to be coming in and using my black spray paint on the little tray, and then I'll set that aside to dry as well. I did that off camera. I figured you guys didn't need to watch me spray paint something. So now I have this template that I created on my vinyl cutter. I have a silhouette that I use for this, but you can use any type of stencil that you have available to you. You can also do transfers. If you have a printable, you can use that with graphite paper. It does not have to be from a vinyl cutter. So you've got a lot of options in how you do this. You could also hand letter this and it would be perfectly fine and very pretty. So now I'm coming in, once I have my stencil set, I'm coming in again with the Rust-Oleum linen white chalk paint. This is going to help me seal in my stencil before I come back in with my black, which is what I'm doing now. And I'm using my little makeup sponges. Y'all know I like using my makeup sponges because I can cut them down to size, and I just like the way that they work for me. And then I'm going to peel up my stencil and get all of the vinyl removed. And I think I had used my heat gun to try and help speed up the paint drying process. Probably was not a good idea because I think that helped the vinyl adhere a little bit more to my surface. So not sure that I recommend that. So now I'm coming in with my Arteza acrylic paint markers, and I am going to be drawing myself some little details. I've got holly leaves here, and then I'll be coming in another minute with some of the regular acrylic paints, also by Arteza. I do still have a coupon code for you for Arteza. It's in my description box, so if that's of interest to you, the new coupon code is good through the end of November. So feel free to use that if that's of any interest at all. And this is just a simple design coming in and creating my little holly leaves. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, this time with just two little leaves. So now I have my regular Arteza acrylic paint. This is in lizard green, and I'm just going to come in and fill in that leaf. So I'm leaving that outline with the darker green and just highlighting the leaves themselves with that lighter green color. And now I'm coming in with my cardinal red Arteza paint, and I'm going to make my little berries. I do have a special drawing coming up, and it's not calendars. So you want to make sure you stay tuned to find out what I'm giving away with this video and what you need to do to get in on the drawing. In the meantime, I am using my Bear wax in dark, and I am just going to distress this a little bit, make it look a little bit more antiqued and aged, just like our inspiration picture was. So I'm just using one of my Kleenex hand towels that I like to keep on my craft table for various things. And I'm just using that. You know, this reminds me of shoe polish. I don't know why. So I'm just kind of coming in here with the little hand towel and going over it where I think it needs a little bit of the wax to get it to the way that looks pleasing to my eye. And there you have it. So here is my little basket. It's all spray painted and dry. And I'm going to come in with my little sign, and I'm going to be securing this with hot glue. So I'm coming in, just putting the hot glue, and I do have parchment paper under here. I have discovered that hot glue does not stick very much to the, as you can just see there, to the parchment paper. So that's been really helpful to me in my crafting when I just need to have something set down on a surface when I'm hot gluing it, and I know that the hot glue is going to go through. So now I'm just reinforcing with the hot glue on the back of the sign, and I figured that this would also serve to help with whatever surface I end up putting it on if I lay it down flat. So here's our little tray. Now you could leave it like that, but I decided I was going to come in with this buffalo check ribbon, and I'm going to alternate it through the slats or the holes. I don't know what you want to call that, but all the way around the perimeter of my little basket. I just figured it would give it another nice little touch. So trimming that off, and then I'm just going to tie a simple bow at the top, just like you're tying your shoelaces. At least that's what I started to do. You're going to see in a minute. I wasn't really happy with the way it was looking. So you certainly could leave it that way, but yeah, I was playing with it and playing with it. And I just couldn't get it to the way I wanted it. So I'm like, you know what? Let's try something else. So I cut that off. I am going to dovetail my ends there. And that actually just by itself would be super cute as well. But I did decide I wanted to make a little bow. So I used my two ends that I'd cut off, made myself some loops. I got it to the length that I wanted it. I'm just kind of fastening them together here, and then I used another little piece of the ribbon to tie them together in the middle. I'm just going to get those secure, and so it's going to essentially look like the same type of bow in the end, but you just have a little bit more control over what it's doing when you create it this way versus just trying to tie a knot with it or tie it like you tie your shoe. Trimmed off my ends, and there it is. What do you think? Leave me a comment. I was really pleased with that. DIY number 8. For this project, I have this container that Rich had gotten at the pet store. They were just giving them away, and it made me think of a candle jar. So I am going to create my own candle. I am using candles from the Dollar Tree. I did end up using 4 packs of these, and then I've got some fragrance that I picked up from Michael's. I am just breaking these candles and sliding them off the wicks, and then I'm going to save the wicks for this project, but then also for future projects. But I'm breaking them all up because we are going to add them to a Ziploc bag and melt them down in boiling water. So now I'm showing you that I've got my fragrance, but I've also got my Arteza mica powder, and this is how I've decided I'm going to color my candle. So I'm looking for a powder that I think will go with the linen. I think it's fresh linen fragrance that I'd picked out. So looking for something that I like that might look really pretty with the scent, and I finally settled on this emerald green color. Now I'm using some of my Arteza transfer paper, and these are a couple of pieces that I had been using quite a bit, and then I had decided I was just going to use them for this. So I cut out a heart, actually 2 hearts, and I'm just applying them to the jar and then coming in with my plaster chalk paint to cover everything up. There had been another image on there, so I wanted to make sure that that was covered. Once that was dry, I came in with my wick and I measured the right length, made it a little bit longer than the jar. I'm using a little bit of hot glue at the tip of it, and I'm just going to set that down inside the jar to make sure that it's secure. And then I'm going to take one of my Dollar Tree skewers and tie the wick around that so that it holds the wick in place where I want it for when I'm pouring my wax. So now I have my wax all melted. I had just boiled water and put it in a Ziploc bag and had the bag inside. You can also use a double boiler, but this was my way of keeping things neat. I do recommend this method. It worked really well for me. I just added my fragrance and I'm zhuzhing it around. It recommends adding the fragrance right before you pour your wax into your mold. So that's what I'm doing. And then I've got my mica powder. I just tapped a little bit in there. A little bit of the mica powder goes a long way. So I was trying to decide how much I need, and I'm zhuzhing it around in there. I decided that was enough. Now, when this dried, because the candle wax dried white, it ended up drying much lighter in color than what you see here. So if you want a deeper tone to your color, or yes, I would recommend either using actual candle colorant or using a lot more of the mica powder. So you can see how it dried lightly or in a lighter color, but I still love this. It came out to be like a pretty seafoam green kind of color. And so I pulled off my little hearts with my little pointy tool. I trimmed off my wick. I've got my lid on there. Isn't that pretty? Such a cute little gift. If you're like, oh, and you could also use a ball canning jar for this if you don't have a little thing like what I had, and then you could write the scent on the top of it. So now I'm coming in with some pretty ribbon that's matching or complementing the color of my candle, and I'm going to tie that around and just make a simple bow. And if you are enjoying these easy, fun projects for gifting, please give me a big thumbs up. I do appreciate that so much. But I'm just tying a regular bow, just like if you were tying your shoelaces. And I'm going to get that and to the place that I'm happy with it. So just tying that tight, and then I will adjust it and get it to where I want it. Once I am happy with the bow size, I'll go ahead and trim off my ends, and I'm going to actually dovetail them. So folding it in half and cutting it at an angle. Sorry, I was a little off camera there, but I'll show you here, cutting that at an angle, and I've got my dovetails. Now you could again leave it like that if you want to, but I decided to add this sparkly little flower from one of my Dollar Tree picks and just finished it off like that. DIY number 9. For this DIY, I'm going to be using Arteza wood panels. I've got the Shine Bright and All You Do calendar, and make sure that you check my community page if you are in the calendar drawing, because I am still trying to get those calendars out to the folks who've won. But I'm taking one of these wood panels. They are 10 by 10 inch panels, and they have a 1.5 inch profile. So they are, when laid flat like that, how I have it, they are about 1.5 inches tall. I guess it's maybe a little bit more than 1.5 inches. So now I'm taking the Arteza regular acrylic paint. I've got it in red, and it's cardinal red and chocolate. And I'm blending this together, and I am going to paint my wood panel. Now you could stain this. I chose to paint it, and it absolutely came out gorgeous. I'm going to show you the finished product in just a second here. I did speed right through this, and once it was dry, it looked like mahogany. Look at that, you guys. You can see the wood tone through it because I only did one coat of paint on this, and I just thought it was gorgeous. But I did want to give it a little bit more of that farmhouse kind of feel, so I roughed up the edges and distressed my corners with my sanding block. So you don't have to do that, but that's what I chose to do. So now I'm just going to clean up my wood panel, make sure I've got all the sawdust out of there, make sure it's nice and ready to go with my Dollar Tree image from that calendar that I had cut out and I'd cut down to size. I considered doing Mod Podge. I considered doing my adhesive spray. In the end, I figured, you know what, I'm going to try this double-sided tape from the Dollar Tree because I've really been liking these. If you see these, I found them in the Crafter Square area. Grab them. They are awesome. Really, really liking the double-sided tape. And it's so easy to apply with the little dispenser there. So I'm just going to squeegee that down and then coming back in because you know I like finishing off all my edges. This is, again, I think this is a cotton cord. I think I got it from Walmart. I've had it in my stash for a while, so I'm not certain. But coming in with my hot glue and just going around the entire perimeter and just making sure that's nice and tight and secure all the way around. So you could leave it like that, but you know me, I'm coming back in with some berry picks. These are from the Dollar Tree. These are the ice berries that I just think are really pretty. I had done a wreath with these not too long ago. And I'm gonna come in with some hot glue to secure them in place. I'll add a few of those little berries that had fallen off and just kind of cover up the hot glue area with that, make it look a little bit prettier. Making sure everything is nice and secure. And then I'm also going to come back in with one of these little fluffy picks that looks like, oh, and I'd gotten it for $1.99. I wanted to show you from the Hobby Lobby. I'd gotten it a few years ago, though. It's been in my stash for a while, but it's nice and soft and fluffy, but I think it looks like evergreen. And so I've been using this in a number of my projects recently, as you may know. So I'm cutting this one stalk down into 3 pieces, and I'm going to be tucking it in amongst my berries and just giving it a little bit more of an accent, a little bit more texture. So tucking it in and making sure that I am gluing it down so that it will stay secure. Of course, I probably did this backwards, so trying to get it tucked in among the berries when I probably should have put the greenery down first because of the way I wanted it to look, but I managed. And then I did the same thing for the other side, so pulled that pick apart, and one of these went a really long way. I mean, I really got a lot out of these picks, so it was good value for my money, I think. So again, you could leave it just like this. It's really pretty as is, but I just felt like I wanted something more. So I'm coming in with my buffalo check ribbon again, and I'm going to create a bow to put along the top. Now I have created a bow tutorial, you all, so that's going to get posted soon within the next week or two. I just have to finalize the details on it, and then I will have that posted for you as well. But I'm just coming back and forth, making sure that my loops are the size that I wanted them. And then once I have it the way that I want it, I am going to come in and secure it all together in the middle there with some hot glue. So I'm just making sure it's the size that I want it for the wood panel that I'm working with. All right, Corey. Okay, here we go. Hot glue, getting that all secured at each of those layers. Just really be careful when you're doing this because the glue does go right through the ribbon, so you want to be careful not to burn yourself. So I flipped that upside down and let it sit there to cool the rest of the way. I had trimmed off a piece of ribbon that was the same length as the top of my box. I folded my ribbon in half to dovetail both ends, and now I am just going to position it up on top. I'm putting some hot glue on the middle there. I just mentioned that that hot glue does go through, so this is going to secure it to the top of my little panel as well, and then applying the bow that I had made as well. And that's it. There you have it. DIY number 10. This is my inspiration picture. I saw this at Michael's. I don't have a large white canvas, so I'm using an Arteza black canvas, and I thought it might really look pretty on the black as well. I'm also using the Arteza silver glitter. It's one of many silvers in the pack that they sent me. I'm using my silver acrylic paint marker from Arteza, and then also my tacky glue. So I am switching out my tip with Arteza's paint markers. They are reversible, and one side is a blunt edge and the other side is a fine point edge. So I wanted the fine point edge. I learned the hard way that you want to switch it back before you put your cap on, because the cap doesn't fit with the pointed edge and you'll end up smashing your little point. They do send extra tips for you, because I imagine I'm not the first person who did that. So just be aware that when you want to use the fine point, just switch it back to the blunt edge before you put your cap back on your marker. Just a little word to the wise there. So once I have my lettering on, and reminder, this is sped up about 3 times, you guys. This is not how my handwriting normally looks. So I appreciate all the compliments on my handwriting. It's not my handwriting. I am drawing this on. So once I have everything the way I want it, I am coming in with my tacky glue, and I'm literally going to use this applicator to apply the glue in the pattern of the image that I want. So I did the entire thing of the 2 trees thinking that the glue would not dry fast enough, or so fast that I wouldn't be able to apply my glitter. I'm gonna give you a tip here too. Do as I say, not as I do, because it actually did dry faster than I anticipated, and it still looked wet, and it still technically was wet, but I am guessing that you know how glue, it'll start to dry obviously from the outside in. So I think it had created a little bit of a film or a barrier over the top of the little glue bubble that I had applied by the time I got there with the glitter. So some of the glitter stuck better than other parts of the glitter. So my recommendation to you would be to come in and do this in sections. Apply some of your glue, apply your glitter to that section, apply some more glue, apply your glitter, and just keep going from there. And I think you'll have a better, easier time with it. I mean, now you can see I am coming in with a brush. I thought maybe I would try and see how that, I didn't like doing it with the brush as much as with the applicator itself. So at any rate, here I'm coming back in with the Arteza glitter, and I am just giving it a really healthy covering with the glitter. And once it was all covered, I set it aside to let it dry. And I'm just showing you there's a lot of glitter in there. It's amazing how much glitter is in these little jars. So once it was dry, I knocked off all of the excess glitter onto a piece of parchment paper, and I'm using a fan brush to just brush off the excess. So there you go, and you can see how the part that I had started first, there's less glitter on there. So I did go back in and I decided to apply a little bit more glue in the areas that were lacking, and I did this in sections. So I did a little bit of the glue, I added on my glitter, and then I kept on going. I was just careful about the glitter placement. Here's the final. DIY number 11. For this DIY, we are using the Arteza polymer clay. I've already picked out the colors that I want to use for this. They sent a whole rainbow of colors if you saw my videos, the last couple of videos, but love it. I also have these jump rings, they call them. I've got some, I don't even know what these are called. They're little metal wire doodads. I don't know, I got them from Michael's in the jewelry section. And then there was something else there. Oh, and my little cutters here, my clay cutters. They're like little mini cookie cutters. I also got those from Michael's. Now, I could not figure out how to get it out of the cookie cutter though, so I'm using my little tool to kind of push it out. If any of you has a tip on how to get clay out of the little cutters when you're using them, I was having the worst time, and I felt like I was destroying the little cutouts. So I'm just trying to fix that again, but there was no fixing the little divot that I had put in there. So I decided I was going to go with it. Happy accidents, right? So I went ahead and made that a little bit more pronounced, and I took some white clay, made a little ball, and I figured, you know what, instead of a star, it can be a little happy sunshine or a flower, whatever you want to call those. So now I am taking my little charm doodad that came with the clay. I cut it down so it wouldn't go through the other side when I pressed it in, and got that set. So I'm doing the same process with different shapes for all of the charms that I am making. And if you haven't already figured this out, I am making wine glass charms. So I just thought that this would be a really cute, pretty gift. You can make these charms as flowers like I am doing. You could create them as cute little animals. I mean, anything. Use your imagination. This is really for inspiration. You can do anything you want with this clay. I also made this cute little heart, and then I took my Arteza red, I think this is tomato red glitter, and I'm just dropping that or tapping it down on this was actually the little film that comes over the top of the glitter jar because I knew I didn't need a lot, and added that to my red. And coming in with my, I think this is the last one, my blue. And here they all are. This is after baking them. I baked them a little differently this time because last time I burned my little snowman. But now I'm taking those little wire, and you can use just regular wire for this too, you guys. There are a bunch of tutorials on YouTube for creating wine charms. They recommended a 4-inch length of wire if you're going to use wire itself. But I just happened to pick these up. They already had the little loop on the end to keep things from going off. And I'm alternating my beads. I'm sorry, I wish you could see better what I'm doing, but I'm going in with blue, silver, or I might have started with the silver. But anyway, you get the idea. Realized I forgot to put my jump ring on my charm. So I took it back off and I added my jump ring back on. So I just made sure I did my silver, blue, silver, added my charm, and then I came back in silver, blue, silver. So whatever I did on one side, I did on the other. And then I'm going to take my little pliers there, and I'm going to bend back the end to make a little bit of a hook that'll go into the loop that's on the other side. And again, I wish that you could see this better, but with this first one I struggled a little bit because I found I hadn't gotten my circle as closed as it needed to be. So I came back in and used my Arteza paint marker instead of my little thread, oh my goodness, what do you call that? Spool. It was, my thread spool was a little bit thicker, so the Arteza marker actually worked out fine for this length. Because these are not quite 4 inches. I think it'd probably be easier if they were 4 inches. And here they are. DIY number 12. For this DIY, I'm using a little oval wood round from the Dollar Tree, as well as some stencils that I cut out from my silhouette cameo. And I'm just trying to figure out, make sure that they're gonna fit on there. That's why they're cut down as much as they are, because I really wanted to make sure that I could fit them all onto this little wood oval. So using my Arteza transfer tape to get those transferred over. making sure that they're on there nice and secure. And I am not going to be painting these, and this is the first time I'm actually going to be using my scorch marker. It's the first time I'm using it with a stencil. And this particular scorch marker that I had picked up, and there is a link in my description box for this as well from Amazon, but it has a dual end. So the one end is like a marker, and then the other end, it has this little foam tip. So I'm using it like a little stencil brush. So coming in and making sure that I'm filling in all of the little areas for my stencil. And then once that's done, I'll go ahead and I will peel up all of the vinyl. And then with the scorch marker, you just come in with your heat gun, and the more heat you put on it, the darker it gets. Now, I don't recommend doing this on a self-healing mat. I noticed that it was starting to make my mat like warp, so I picked that up. I was like, oh no. I put one of my wood panels underneath, and that seemed to do the trick, and then I was able to just keep coming in. And you want to keep your heat source moving, but you can see how now all of a sudden it's going really nice and dark, and it just makes it look like the wood has been burned. And that is non-toxic, so it's safe for anybody to use. Now I'm coming in with my Home Decor red chalk paint, and I always forget what the Imperial, that's what it's called. And I'm just doing a dry brush technique because I wanted to bring a little bit of Christmas to it. So I thought, oh, let's do some red. I went a little bit crazy with the red because I think it's right about here. Well, no, yeah, right there. I was like, oh, that was a little too much. So I just kind of went with it. I did come back in a second and try to sand it. Of course, I hadn't waited long enough before I tried to sand it, and so it just kind of started smudging the paint more than anything else. But yeah, here I go. Yeah, and then I'm like, ugh, don't do that, Corie. So I came back in with some plaster, and I did the same thing, just a dry brush technique. I just felt like it might knock down the red a little bit. So I do still have that red in there, but it's just not as red. So now I'm coming in with my jute cord. I'm starting at the top, and I'm using my hot glue to just attach this all around the perimeter of the wood oval. And the reason I was starting at the top was that I knew I was going to be adding, first of all, a hanger, but then also some detail that I figured would go ahead and camouflage that. So here I am, I'm just making a loop with my jute cord again. I'm going to trim that off, and then I'll attach that to the back with more hot glue. And I always like to have things nice and secure, so coming in with a lot more hot glue just to make sure that that little sucker is not going anywhere. So now I'm coming in with my Dollar Tree picks, and you know me, I love cutting down my picks and pulling them apart. So I'm just cutting off little pieces that are going to give me just what I need for this particular little project. I don't need anywhere near as much as what's there. So sometimes these picks can go a long way, especially if you're doing a lot of little projects. So coming in with my hot glue and making sure I am attaching that where I want it. I'm also trying to be careful not to come down too low because I don't want to cover up the words on my sign. I just want it to be something pretty at the top to accent what I've done. So these are my berries, also from the Dollar Tree, and I'm just trying to get in between some of those berries without destroying them and cutting off a little bit of a piece for what I need. And then I knew I wanted some greenery, so I was trying to use those leaves that came with it. It just wasn't working. So instead, this is one of those garland ties, also from the Dollar Tree. I think it comes in a pack of 10 or 12. And I'm just cutting that down and using that as my little greenery for my project. And then I'll go ahead and attach the berries with some hot glue. And I decided I wanted a little bit more than that, so I got myself some more of those little berries. And they're all wedged in there nice and tight together, so that was that was an adventure, but I finally made it work and got that in there and got it all glued down. And there you have it. Rustic little joy, peace, rejoice. DIY number 13. For this project, I'm using some leftover little garland tie greenery. I've got a couple of dollar picks from the floral picks from the Dollar Tree. I've got a candle from the Dollar Tree, this awesome ribbon from Costco, and some cinnamon. I am unwrapping my candle, getting it down to the wax, and then I am going to take a bunch of my cinnamon sticks and measure up about how tall I need to make them, and I'm going to cut them down. It turned out that I just had to cut these in half. I got my cinnamon sticks from Costco. That's why I've got that big old container, but I'm sure that you can find them at the regular grocery store. And so now I am coming around. I was trying to apply it with hot glue, thinking, well, maybe it would melt the wax a little bit and it would meld it together. Yeah, it really wasn't working the way that I had envisioned. So I ended up taking a piece of elastic and I'm going to wrap it around here. Now, I could have just used a rubber band. I could not find a rubber band. How I don't have a rubber band is beyond me. So anyway, I improvised. I used a piece of elastic and tied it around here. So now I am taking my cinnamon sticks and tucking them in all the way around my little candle, and the elastic is holding it in place. So once I had the last one there and I've got the whole thing covered, I'm now coming in with some hot glue because this girl has to just keep trying with the hot glue for whatever reason. But then I came in underneath with tacky glue just to make sure, because I wasn't convinced that the hot glue was going to be securing it. So once that was all dry, I brought my ribbon out and I had moved the elastic band down, and now I'm just tying the ribbon around and just making a simple knot. I thought about putting a bow on here, and then I found that the knot itself was just enough. Then I'm coming in with the greenery. I needed a little bit more, so I'm giving my garland tie a haircut, and I'm going to cut that down and add that in the way that I want it. And then I'm going to come in with some of this sparkly Dollar Tree pick. It's like a branch that's covered with gold sparkle, gold glitter. So, and I think it's really pretty. So, you know me, I always have to use bits and pieces of things. So I'm just cutting off what I need, and I'll save the rest of it for later, and attaching that as well with the hot glue. And once I have all my gold on there, I'm going to come in with some of this little red berry pick. And at first I thought I was going to try to just cover the center with that, but the way that this pick is created, it really wasn't working out. So I just added in my little berries the same way that I did the other items, like a spray. And then I came in with these little red jingle bells from the Dollar Tree. I think they come in a pack of 50 or something like that, and I just placed 3 of those right in the center. And there you have it. What a simple, fun, and easy gift. So I hope you're enjoying the craft so far. Again, if you are new, my name is Corie, and on my channel, I like to do all different kinds of crafts, usually traditional with a farmhouse slant, always on a budget, almost always on a budget, a lot of Dollar Tree, trash to treasure, thrift flips, and just generally budget-friendly crafting. So if you are enjoying the projects, I hope that you'll give me a big thumbs up. It really does help support my channel. And if you haven't already subscribed, please consider hitting that subscribe button as well as the bell so you get notified every time I upload a new video. And for my returning subscribers, thank you so much. I absolutely adore every single one of you. You are so important to me, and I just can't thank you enough for all of the love and support. So let's go ahead and continue with the crafting. DIY number 14. So for this, I'm using one of the Arteza wood panels. These are 10 by 10 panels and about 1.5 inches deep. And I'm using my red chalk paint again. I also had shown you decals that I picked up from the Dollar Tree. And now I'm using my gold Arteza acrylic paint. And I loved this gold color so much. At first I thought I was just going to keep it along the sides, but I loved it so much I wanted to bring it up onto the front surface. So I just really lightly, and it's not a solid line, just kind of stippled it along each of the edges there. So now I'm using my transfer tape again to come in with the Be Joyful Always that I picked up from the Dollar Tree. And you probably could just peel it off and apply it. I was just having issues, so I figured I would use my transfer tape. It just made it easier for me. And now I'm coming in over it with some Mod Podge. And my thought here was let it be sealed in. And then I also figured it might hide the fact that these are basically stickers that I stuck on the front of here. So there we are. Let me know what you think. DIY number 15. For this project, I am actually using something that I've purchased from Best Daily Deals, and I'll have a link for it in the description box, as well as links to products that they have for $3.99. And this is something that could be purchased and made as a gift, or you could give the actual kit as a gift. So it comes with everything you need. I'm showing you here. It's got the canvas. It's kind of like paint by numbers. They've got special codes along the side there to indicate what each color is. And then it has the little wax, the applicator, and the diamond drills, they call them. They're plastic, but they are super sparkly. And now I'm showing you my boxes, my vitamin or medicine boxes that I got from the Dollar Tree, and I'm using these to store all of my little beads, or drills, excuse me. So I'm numbering them to correspond with the drills. There were 21 different colors. And now I'm using the little tray. It's got little channels in the tray. So you just add your drills and then you shake them and they all turn upright. So now I'm trying to take the wax onto my applicator and realize that there was a film over the wax. So make sure you remove the film before you do this. And then that little bit of wax on your applicator allows you to pick up the drills really easily and then place them down onto the canvas. Now you see I've got this plastic sheet pulled away. You want to leave that on the canvas. The canvas has a really sticky, tacky film all over the image, and you leave on the plastic to protect the image while you're doing this so that you don't gum it up with your hands by like leaning on it or getting your sweater on it or whatever, you know what I mean. So once you have it all done, it looks absolutely beautiful and sparkly. See how pretty that is? Somebody I had read likened it to cross stitch. So if you like that kind of look, it definitely is not a solid picture. It's definitely going to look a little bit more pixelated, but it's super sparkly. So I'm coming in with my rolling pin with a piece of cloth over it, and this is just to make sure that all of those little drills are set firmly into the adhesive that's on there. So now I'm going to come in with Mod Podge and I'm going to go over it to seal it all in. And this is just to make sure that none of them pop off at some point if the adhesive were to decide to give way. Now I'm using glossy Mod Podge. I understand there might be a super gloss Mod Podge available, and that's what I would recommend using just to make sure that you are maintaining the ultimate amount of shine, because this is called diamond painting, and the reason it's called diamond painting is that it is super sparkly. Now I wish that it were showing up better on camera because it is super sparkly and actually very, very pretty. So now I am cutting down my 1x2s to create a frame, and you saw that I was measuring it out before, and I am coming in with my staple gun, and I'm using, I think these are 1/2 inch staples, and trying to secure that. It wasn't quite strong enough, so of course now I'm coming back in with my wood glue. I recommend using the wood glue first. So I was struggling with that, so now I'm using my Star Bond because of course I also want this to dry super fast. So I'm using my thick gel Star Bond CA glue or super glue, and this is their accelerator, and once you pour that on or spray that on, it dries it within 10 to 20 seconds. Amazing, fantastic. And that that thick gel glue, by the way, can be used as a wood filler, so I was kind of using it like that. So now you saw that I had mixed my plaster chalk paint with some water because I really want to just have this whitewash effect, so I was painting it on and wiping it off. Once I have it the way I want it, I'm putting it over my image, lining it up, and now I'm going to apply it like a stretched canvas because this is a canvas, so I am treating it just as I would if I were to take one of those, canvases apart from the Dollar Tree and, cut the edges off and apply it and use that as a frame. Hopefully you're following what I'm saying. And then stapling it back onto the frame. That's exactly the idea here. So I'm just stretching it as much as I can, and then I am using my staple gun to apply it to my frame. And then I'm coming back in and just making sure I'd started with all the corners, and then I went and did it around the whole surface, and there it is. I wish you could see how sparkly it is. So now I have my, I think this is cotton cord, but it's like a white cotton cord, and I'm coming in and using my staple gun. I stapled it down, folded it back over itself, and then stapled it again, and I'm just banging it with my hammer to make sure that it's in solid. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm pulling it taut because this does have some give to it, so it is going to stretch up. So I want to make sure that it's not going to be seen when it's hanging on the wall. DIY number 16. This is actually going to be a gift idea. I'm using these transfers. They are rub-on transfers, and the little containers I picked up from Michael's, and they were just $1 or $2 a piece. So I thought they were really cute. I actually had a subscriber ask if I could show you all how to decorate these for everyday use. You can do so much with these jars. You can use them in your kitchen. You can use them in your bathroom. So you can decorate them however you want. You could use glass paint. You could use these rub-ons. You could use vinyl. There's so much you could do with all of these. It really just depends on how you want to use them. So I am actually going to be making little gifts with these, and so to do that I'm going to be using some baking soda, some Epsom salt. I'm going to be using my Arteza mica powder, And I'm really excited to try these, you guys. They are cosmetic grade, and so they're safe to be using in the bath salts we are making now. These are essential oils that I had picked up on Amazon that I just love using these. I keep them in my office. And then I have some sachets because I was hoping there were dried flowers in there. And now I'm using kosher salt because I did not have sea salt, but you really should be using coarse sea salt. But this will work just fine. So I measured out all my ingredients. I am going to put a link to the recipe that I used in my description box as well. Now, they weren't dried flowers, but they were still, they had these like gold flecks, and I'm not sure if it was cork or it was definitely something natural, but I went ahead and used that in here too. I thought it would give it some pretty interest, and I'm using lavender and eucalyptus essential oils. Now, here's my mica powder. Now, I'm just stirring in a little tiny bit at a time, because I have the impression that a little goes a long way. And keep in mind here, you know, I'm using this teeny tiny little spoon, and I think I ended up putting a total of 4 little scoops into my bath salts, but this is like 5 or 6 cups worth of powder, you guys. And I ended up with a really pretty seafoam green color. It was really, really nice, and it smells really good when it was all done with all of the essential oils and everything. Now I'm using my Dollar Tree ribbon to tie cute little bows around the top of them, and then I'm just going to trim off my ends. What a cute little gift that made. DIY number 17. For this project, we are going to be using a burner cover from the Dollar Tree. This is a pack of 2. We're just going to use the large one. And the Every Moment Matters calendar. I'm going to be using the image from April, Keep On Fighting. So I'm going to go ahead and tear out my calendar page. I'm not too worried about that edge because I'm going to be cutting this in just a minute. So now I'm taking my burner cover, trying to identify where it needs to be on the page. I went back and just wanted to make sure that the image itself was centered so that when I cut this out, it will also remain centered. And so I'm just, you know, my perfectionism is showing here, you guys. So just making sure that it's all lined up. I'm using a pen to mark it off. I know you can't really see my line there, but I had just traced the outline of the cover. So now I'm going to be coming in with some pink chalk paint that I had mixed up way long ago. And I'm using this on a few different projects, and I'm finally getting to the end of it. So I finished it up on this particular project, but giving my burner cover 2 coats of the paint just because I wanted to make sure that there was no chance that that original image would show through the image I'm going to be applying. Using, of course, my heat gun there to dry that off a little bit faster, and then cutting this around the circle that I had traced and just making sure that it's all good to go. And now I'm going to be applying it to the top of my burner cover using Mod Podge. And I did have a really sweet subscriber that share a comment with me that if you spritz your page with water before doing this, it helps with wrinkles. Now, unfortunately, I saw the comment after I'd been working on these projects, so I didn't have an opportunity to do it, and I also would need to get a little like spray bottle or something. But there's a little tip for you from one of our wonderful subscribers in case you'd like to give that a shot. And then once I had that on there, I'm coming back over with some additional Mod Podge just to seal it in, and I'm also going over the sides with that. Here I am with my heat gun again. You guys know I have no patience for waiting for that stuff to dry. And now I have a piece of pink ribbon, and I was determined to try to use this ribbon. I was thinking about the Hope ribbon. I'm thinking about wanting to just have something around this edge, so I finally went with just this little silver cord that I got from the Dollar Tree, and then I'll be coming back in with some pink ribbon in a minute. So while I am doing this, and as you can see, I'm just using some hot glue to go around the edge of the pan just to cover up where the edge of the paper is. But we are closing out the month of October, and as you may be aware, October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, so I just wanted to make one more project in the spirit of awareness and encourage every single one of you to take really good care of yourselves. Make sure that you're getting checked as necessary and follow your advice that you receive from your doctor. Really want everybody to stay healthy and safe and be well. So when I got to the end there, I went ahead and glued that down, and you can see it's just a nice little bling. And you guys know I like my bling too, right? So all good. So here I am with the ribbon again, and I wanted to make the hope ribbon on this, but the ribbon I had to work with, and it is a wired ribbon, it was just too wide for what I was trying to do. So then I'm like, well, let me try and bend it in half. Can I manipulate it? Sometimes I get something in my head and I'm just determined to make it work, and it just was not going to work. So I finally gave up and I decided to just make a regular ribbon or a regular bow, I should say, with this ribbon, because this was the only ribbon I had this color, and this was the color that I really wanted to use. So I have my 4 little loops. I'm going to take an extra piece of the ribbon and tie it around the center, just in a simple knot around the center, and that is going to secure my bow. So I know that I offered to make a bow tutorial, and a few of you have raised your hand saying yes, that's of interest, so I do plan on doing some of that soon. And now I'm just trying to decide where I want to actually position my bow. And while I'm thinking about where I want it to be, I'm going to go ahead and dovetail my ends. So just folding that ribbon in half, cutting it at an angle. On the inside part, so that folded part, you go low and you go high towards the outside, and that gives it that dovetailing effect. So I've decided I'm going to off-center my bow, kind of have it at an angle. So I put a decent amount of hot glue on there, probably more than I needed, to be honest, and just secured my bow there. And then I decided I wanted to kind of tack down my ribbon where I wanted it, because I didn't want it to be covering up the words. And I did test this ribbon before I started using hot glue with it, just to make sure that the hot glue wasn't going to seep through it. So if you do plan to attempt using hot glue with a ribbon like this, I just recommend test with a little scrap piece of it first, just to make sure that it's not going to be visible or damage your ribbon, because there's nothing worse than damaging something that you're working hard on and want to have look pretty, right? So I would just test that first to be safe. So once I had all of this done, I knew that it needed something more, and I kept looking at it, and it's really pretty like that, right? I mean, it is, but I just felt like it was a little top heavy. And so here I am again with this ribbon. I'm still stuck on the hope ribbon, you guys. So I'm like, well, maybe I could trim this ribbon in half and maybe make a little hope ribbon out of it that I can put down there at the bottom. But you know, it was fraying on the edges, and then I'm like, oh, well, that kind of makes a little bit of a neat effect. Maybe I could still do it. And so I'm still messing with this and looking at it. I'm like, I finally just gave up. I'm like, no, it's not gonna happen. It is just not meant to be for this particular project. So instead, I went to my stash. Well, I guess first of all, I was still thinking about it. So this is just a tab off of a soda container, and I am lining it up on the back, and it was slippery. I'm sorry, you guys, you probably hear Sammy shaking around over here next to me, but used the soda can tab with some hot glue. This is going to be my hanger. So then I had gone to my stash, and I had these really pretty flowers from the Hobby Lobby that I've had for a while, and they were the perfect color. So I've got these pretty little pink flowers, and you know what? This is something that now can be reminiscent or a remembrance of breast cancer awareness, but it's not kind of blatantly breast cancer awareness, so it really could be used as any type of decor, right? So it's almost got like a, I not a hidden meaning, but a subtle meaning to it, right? So keep on fighting. It's got the soft pinks, but it could really be more versatile. It could serve for something more than just breast cancer awareness, but still the sentiment is there. So I actually really love the way this piece came out, and I hope that you're enjoying it as well. So as you know, I always pull my picks apart, so I am just layering them on a little bit at a time because that helped me manipulate these the way that I wanted them. So I literally did a single stem at a time, glued them on at the tip of the stem all the way up and around, excuse me, and then as I got to the top, I started tucking it under the ribbon. Now, had I thought that I was going to be putting the flowers on here from the beginning, I would have done that first and then applied my bow. So just a word to the wise and a tip for you if you decide to try to create this. Isn't it pretty? I love this piece. DIY number 18.
So we're going to be using craft paper, a calendar from the Dollar Tree, and they have some really great images on their calendars this year, you guys. So if you haven't had a chance to check those out, I recommend it. And then this is also a sign from the Dollar Tree. We'll be mounting our calendar image on this. And then also using some tumbling tower blocks. So taking the hanger off, and I'm going to use my Dollar Tree sanding block and just going to, sand off the edges of this because I noticed that the image that was on there was kind of hanging over and I just wanted clean edges. And then I pulled out the image that I wanted to use from the calendar. I'm going to be using adhesive spray to adhere this. And this actually worked out really well, you guys. So if you watched my video from last week, you saw that I kind of got it everywhere with the bookmarks that I made. But for this, it was perfect. So just make sure that you have that image where you want it before you set it down, because this stuck really well. So getting all of the air bubbles out, you can use a credit card or whatever. I'm using my burnishing tool from my Silhouette. And here we are. I'm building a little frame with the tumbling tower blocks, but you'll notice in a second, I discovered that they're not all consistently the same color from one box to the next. I had a bunch of extras from other projects. I'm like, these are not the same color. So I ended up opening up another box and was just hoping that they would either match or that I would have enough of the brown blocks in the one box, and it actually worked out fine. But you can see I've got a little bit of a gap there, so I took my trusty little miter saw and cut off a couple of pieces, there you are, to just fit in. Just made sure that the edges were nice and just tucked those in to complete the frame so that I was good to go. Now I'm using just a straight edge to get myself started to make sure that everything will be nice and square, and hot gluing those little tower blocks around the perimeter of my picture. So I'm just going to do that all the way around. And there you go. So now I'm going to be using some burlap ribbon, and I've had this for a really long time, you guys, so I'm not sure where I got it. I think I got it online at ribbon.com or something. But I'm trying to decide how I want my ribbon, and I'm really just folding it back and forth on top of itself to get the bow that I'm looking for. And I just kind of smoosh it down where I want it to be smooshed. That wire in the ribbon is really super helpful. And then I'm going to come in with hot glue and just secure it where I want it. This is a really good time to grab your little finger protectors. I finally did. You can see I'm burning myself. I'm like, you silly, why are you not using your finger protectors? So there I got them on. And there is the bow the way I wanted it. So you can just kind of see it's just, folded back and forth. It's nothing scientific. So I set that aside for the moment, and I'm flipping my sign over, and I'm taking another length of the ribbon, making a V shape, and I'm going to adhere this to the back of my sign. And I'm not too worried about how that looks because I am going to be covering that with that craft paper that I mentioned earlier. So we'll have a nice finished professional looking back when we're all done. So I'm going to go ahead and take that craft paper and I'm going to, set it down underneath. Here we go. And I'm going to trace it and then just cut out the square that I need for this particular piece. So I'll cut that all out and then I will be adhering it with some hot glue. So just going to line it all up and glue it on down. This just helps to have a nice finished piece. So if anybody happens to see the back or if you decide it's something you'd like to sell, it's nice and done. So now I'm going to take that bow and I'm hot gluing that to the top of the hanger. And I did end up deciding this is too long, so I adjusted it down a little bit in the end.
DIY number 19.
So for this, I'm using some scrap wood. I'm also using a couple of rounds that came from a pack from Hobby Lobby. It was a pack of 4 for like $2.99. And this is a $5 spindle that I got from the Home Depot, along with some Adirondack white chalk paint and some elephant chalk paint. So I'm going to start out with my miter saw and I'm going to cut the spindle not at the midway point. I picked a point that looked like a good place for my liking. And now I'm measuring the longer piece down to be just slightly longer than the original piece. And I wanted them to have a similar look. So now I'm showing you the screws that I'm going to be using. I found center on my wood blocks and I'm just drilling holes. I'm using one as a template for the other. I didn't show it because it was too hard to get it in frame, but I also drilled holes in the tops and bottoms of the spindles in the center. Now I was just showing you that I had found a larger drill bit that was a little bit bigger than my screw heads because I want to be able to countersink my screws. So see that? I didn't go all the way through, just a little bit, just enough so that when I screw these in, my screw heads will sit below the surface of the wood, and that's going to allow them to sit flat on whatever surface I set these candlesticks on. So I started off my screw in that wood, and then once it was starting to poke out on the other side, I attached it to the spindle and started securing it that way. And then I just tightened it up as much as I could. So then I found center on my circles and I did the exact same process. I drilled my holes, then I switched out my drill bit and did what I needed to do to enable myself to be able to countersink my screws. So that's what I'm doing there. And here they are put together. So giving them a good coat of the Adirondack white chalk paint. Now I'm just dry brushing a little bit on the white part of the spindles just to blend everything. And then using my elephant with my chip brush, going in and distressing everything, especially on those edges.
Okay, everybody, that's it for today's projects. I hope that you enjoyed this compilation. If you did, please do give me a big thumbs up. Please also let me know what your favorite project was because I really appreciate the feedback. And if you would share my video, I would be so, so grateful. But until the next time, be well, be kind, and make it a great day. Thank you so much. Take good care. Bye.